Happy New Year, guys, and welcome back to the Friday Vlog, where we discuss activity that goes on here with the BuzzWeaver channel. That includes things like current events, headlines that are in the news, social media, pop culture, technology, and items of interest that come up during the week that allow us to have a little bit of a dialogue. If this is your first time here to the channel, welcome. And if you are a returning visitor and or a dedicated subscriber, I want to thank all of you guys for your continued support.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is Wednesday, January the 6th, 2020. We have just come out of a rather tumultuous, historical, unprecedented event in 2020, the pandemic dominating the world. And today, on Wednesday, January the 6th, we are presented with yet another unprecedented event that happened today in Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, in the state of Maryland. We have talked about this before. There was going to be a march on January the 6th on Wednesday, and President Trump said that it would be wild. But we have gone past wild into what the world is shocked by, trying to understand what exactly just happened and what exactly was trying, or what were they trying to accomplish? Because I have friends of mine that are in D.C. right now who are there saying where we were and the things we were doing, it was all peaceful. There was no issues. And then we have people that have breached and stormed into the actual Capitol. We'll get into that here momentarily. So here we have U.S. Capitol secured hours after pro-Trump rioters invade Congress. Now, of course, we know how the media is going to frame it. And I guess for me, one of the irritating things about this is that this is what the mainstream media has wanted since President Trump took office, was to illustrate and demonstrate how perhaps Trump supporters or certain groups of Trump supporters would behave in this sort of manner. Now, I'm not saying that as a criticism. I'm not saying that as to disparage groups of Trump supporters, of course, or those who support the president and so forth. I'm simply using it as a descriptive detail here so that we can move forward with this conversation. So, U.S. Capitol secured hours after pro-Trump rioters invade Congress. Of course, here we have some of the video footage. I'm just going to show you, I want to show you some of the images and what we have here. So this is from Senator Jeff Merkley. Electoral College ballots rescued from the Senate floor. If our Capitol floor staff hadn't grabbed them, they would have been burned by the mob. I don't think they would have actually burned them. And we're going to talk about the people who stormed the Capitol here in just a moment. But I wanted to go through. Here's some individuals here. Protesters stormed the U.S. Capitol, interrupting electoral vote count. And here we have some people prone on the floor. Capitol Police have them on the ground. Then here we can see some of the people that have actually breached the chamber and sitting in the speaker's seat. I'm kind of at a loss for words to really describe this, but it's really disappointing. It really is. I can understand people's frustration. I can understand people's irritation. I can understand the need to express yourself. But this is not going to help any cause for the president. I know that might be unpopular with groups of individuals. I know many of them. I know what they say, what they have said to me, what they have told me, what I'm hearing from them. And I'm just going to say I disagree with reaching this level, because it's not going to accomplish what you think it's going to accomplish. I know it will accomplish maybe a sense of victory from an ideological standpoint, but from a practical, functional standpoint, it's going to achieve very little. As a matter of fact, it's going to feed right into the establishment. Here we have members of Congress run for cover as protesters try to enter the House chamber, which they already did, during a joint session of Congress on January the 6th, 2021 in Washington, D.C. Now, you guys know that I try to give you as accurate of information as I can. This is why I use a lot of the mainstream media to produce this content and do research. But I wanted to show you this image specifically because I am hearing out there in the Twitterverse, out there in the social media, that these particular individuals are actually part of either Black Lives Matter Black Bloc, or even Antifa. So keep in mind here, I have no way to verify this, and I'll get into that in a moment, but here they are. So here's the individuals that the media is describing as supporters of U.S. President Donald Trump enter the U.S. Capitol January 6th, okay? So here's the pictures that are floating around the internet, and this is from Carrie Kellman. Arizona Black Lives Matter rally in June, D.C. Capitol in January. So this individual apparently a Black Lives Matter or attended a Black Lives Matter. I don't know what capacity he attended it, who he was representing, what organization, but nonetheless, this is one of those individuals who was also seen at a Black Lives Matter rally. I wanted to show you that, guys. And then the other two individuals here also designated or suggested are part of Antifa. I cannot verify this other than to say we see this entry here, phillyantifa.org, where these particular individuals were shown. So we know we've seen Tim Pool having had pictures with certain members in certain groups, but of course he was there in a capacity of a journalist interviewing them, but they always like to associate him with these particular groups depending on their particular convenience. So when it comes to my contacts or even the mainstream media's contact when it comes to Antifa or Black Lives Matter, Andy No is the go-to guy. This is who the mainstream media comes to get information regarding Black Lives Matter, Antifa, for example, and most of the Trump detractor groups that protest. So I went through some of his material, and I never saw any images of these particular individuals. Here's one here. He says a grand jury has indicted this individual. Okay, so these are just kind of other stories relating to Antifa. But I went through his material, and I couldn't really find anything. Says Sean N. Bascom, 34, was arrested at a violent Portland Antifa protest outside the North Precinct. Okay, I don't know whether or not he's in D.C. These are just him talking about particular individuals. So we're going to move on over here to officials say the Capitol is secure after pro-Trump protest. I'm reading this from the top. And you can see like what's being featured here on Twitter. Of course, this news is going all around the world. The Capitol building is now secure, U.S. officials say. Police are driving protesters away from the building, according to Reuters witness. More updates. And of course, we can see just kind of what's been going on here. So latest from U.S. Capitol. Trump supporters storm building. One shot and critical. At least 5 taken to hospital. As I understand it, the female that was shot has now died. At least one IED found on Capitol grounds. Yes, we had heard that there were some improvised devices or even a pipe bomb, but there was no confirmation on whether or not they were actually explosives. So we haven't heard anything more of that. This is 2 hours ago. Senators determined to stay until counting finished, and D.C. curfew begins at 6 p.m. Now, I live in the East Coast. It is now 7:54 or 7:52 as I do this recording. So here we have Democratic lawmakers call for Pence to invoke 25th Amendment, remove Trump from office. So the Democrats are very riled up. They have unfortunately been given a platter that they have been looking for the last 4 years. And now we have it. Democratic lawmakers call on Vice President Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment on Wednesday and remove President Trump from office, blaming the president for inciting the rioters that violently breached the Capitol building. And so we see many different tweets from different individuals talking about what happened. And I'm drawing up here. Here's Ilhan Omar. I am drawing up articles of impeachment. Donald J. Trump should be impeached by the House of Representatives and removed from office by the United States Senate. We can't allow him to remain in office. It's a matter of preserving our republic, and we need to fulfill our oath. That is so bizarre coming from her. that particular language that she's using there. So here we have Twitter suspends Trump's account for 12 hours, threatens permanent ban. The President of the United States. So Twitter has locked Donald Trump's account for 12 hours for repeated and severe violations and has threatened to permanently suspend his account if he violates more policies in the future. Now think about this, guys. The President of the United States is unable, if he needed to send a message out. Because today, the Democrats kept calling on the president to speak out against this activity. We were hearing that his administration and his assistants were begging him to make the video that he later came out with, telling everyone to disperse and to go home peacefully. He understood how they felt, and he wanted everyone to go home peacefully. So he is currently banned on Twitter for up to 12 hours. So Biden calls on mob to pull back, urges restoring decency. Of course, Joe Biden, how can I describe this actual image here? They got this halo effect going on here. We've got this fictitious office of the president-elect, which doesn't exist. And this is what we can expect. Remember the Obama columns when he had that little deal he had going on, and they had these Greek columns and him coming down like some type of god. This is what the media loves to do. They love this grandstanding right here, making their establishment Trojan horse surrogate look like a saint. And I'm not really saying that to disparage the man. I mean, we obviously know the establishment was absolutely determined to win this election, and now they have much fuel for their fire. And this is, of course, the office of the president-elect. I've never heard of it before. This must be historical as well, because I've never heard of the president of the elect's office before, ever. Never heard of it. Protesters are in the building. U.S. Capitol under siege. This has been repeated over and over again, except in video, of course. But here's some of the images of them breaching through these barriers that were put down. And many of the people there, the Capitol Police and stuff, were completely unprepared for this to happen. And many of us as commentators would not have imagined that the protesters would have gone this far. We would not have imagined that they would have gone into the U.S. Capitol the way they did. So that's very discouraging and sad. I understand the frustration. I understand the anger. I totally get it. And what makes it even more difficult is when you can see what is actually happening unfold before your eyes as the establishment for the last 4 years, working with the mainstream media, working with tech giants, working with Trump detractors, working with these particular protesters, we could see what was happening. And here's the difference. The Trump detractor protesters of the various groups and organizations, they are actually backed by legal teams. If you guys didn't know, they actually have legal teams, donations that are specifically set up to bail them out of jail and provide them with legal protection. Today, we saw regular, everyday citizen Trump supporters breaching the Capitol, and you gotta keep in mind here, this is a federal offense, okay? This isn't a slap on the wrist, maybe, I don't know. We'll see how far this is going to be enforced, but this is going to be a federal offense, okay? This isn't just trespassing on a private business. This is this is going to be federal level prosecutions here. And here we see the way this was explained and described is that some of the protesters were trying to get into the Capitol. So this is actually a door that that the members enter into. And what they've done is they've taken like a desk or a podium of some sort, and they've used it as a barricade, because apparently what they were saying was they were doing two things. One, they were using fire extinguishers to break this glass, and two, to use the fire extinguishers to create kind of a smoke screen inside the Capitol. Probably a lot of very impromptu activity. So here we have some individuals here. I don't know if he's pepper sprayed. Maybe he's just making a grimacing facial expression here, like, okay, whatever, I'm here. I'm surrendering. I'm stopping what I'm doing. Then again, we have more of these people climbing up the wall. Many of you who have served in the military probably recognize this face right here from tear gas. When you go through basic training, depending on which branch you go into, they usually have like a tear gas room, or they put you through tear gas, and then this is what it is. I mean, this is the good stuff, tear gas, not some of the lame soy boy stuff they use on BLM and Antifa. This is the real deal. This is what you look like when the real deal tear gas is launched on you. And then, of course, we're back to where we began here with just the multiple stories. National Guard secures Capitol. MAGA turns terror. Calls for Trump removal escalate. Take his Twitter. Biden warns sedition. Nation shaken to core. And it is kind of sad to see. And guys, here is where you're going to lose me very quickly. Capitol protesters loot, vandalize Nancy Pelosi's office. Okay, the line has been crossed. Okay, this is where I stop supporting this type of activity. It's one thing to go to the Capitol. It's another when you bust inside and do this nonsense right here. So here we have a guy wearing his MAGA hat. I can't really see it that far. I sit 3 feet away from my monitor. And there he is sitting apparently at Nancy Pelosi's office. And as you guys recall, this is not too dissimilar to what AOC did, but AOC is a member of the House, and so if she wants to go to Nancy's office and sit outside of it, she can do that because she's authorized, has her credentials, and has the clearance. Sad to see this. This is really troubling to me. This really bothers me a lot. So a protester sits at the office, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. So this is another individual who's kind of made his way into Nancy's office, and he's kind of lounging there and kind of taking it all in. And I'm sorry, I just don't support that. I really don't. I don't support that. And another thing that I think people are going to have to keep in mind here, here's the young lady, unfortunately, who passed away. This was the moment a woman was fatally shot aimed U.S. Capitol chaos. I don't know if I can really show this to you on AOL, so on AOL. Completely flustered here. On YouTube, so I'm just going to stop that right there. We're going to come back to this, and I'll just kind of play this in the background. Hopefully the sound won't go off, but so my thoughts on this, guys, is I was all for the peaceful march. I was all for, the various groups, the Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, all the organizations, all the groups, all the people that were going to the Capitol. We got some breaking news right now. Congress resumes counting electoral votes after pro-Trump rioters invade Capitol. I don't know if they're doing that right at this very moment at 8 o'clock in the evening, but what happened today is going to be seen all over the world. It's going to be interpreted a million different ways. Messages, I've gotten tweets. I have gotten overwhelmed by individuals asking what is going on. How did this happen? Was this planned? Who knew about this? And of course, none of us as commentators, none of us as YouTube content creators were expecting this. We had kind of heard, maybe kind of sarcastically, cynically, hyperbole that, metaphorically storm the Capitol, but not, actually storm the Capitol. And I did do a live video today. I'm going to put it up in the top right-hand corner. It'll be there. So if you guys want to check out the live coverage from today, you can see I was covering this throughout the day today. But nonetheless, guys, an unprecedented time in our country. I welcome your thoughts. I welcome your comments down there below. Thank you for the continued support. Probably we'll have some additional coverage depending on what happens later on today. It is Wednesday, January the 6th, 2021, and we have had people storm the Capitol in Washington, D.C.
All right, guys, so that's going to wrap it up for this Friday vlog. Thank you, of course, as always, for your continued support. And below this video, you can find the various social media platforms that I belong to, particularly those out there in the alt-tech sphere. That would be Gab, Minds, Odyssey, BitChute, and of course Parley, where there is a huge amount of support. Thank you guys there on Parley for all of your guys' support here of the channel. And of course, there on the screen, that would be the YouTube channel icon. You can click on that to subscribe, as well as a selection of notification so that you guys will know when there's content here on the channel, to include the Friday vlog. And I will see you guys right there behind the camera next week.